In 1999, movie lovers and the general public were introduced to The Matrix, a film that redefined how a movie can be made that still holds a strong influence to this day. It was a box office success with critical acclaim and 4 Oscars to back it up. As the years go by, it took on a more philosophical identity as it explores ideas that has been debated for centuries. The idea that the world as we know it, how we see and feel it, isn't the real world at all. That is an illusion and we are being tricked by some nefarious being for their own purpose. I first saw The Matrix way after it has established itself into the cultural psyche, and I do remember being impressed by it and liking it a lot. Later on, when I went to college for film studies, a discussion about the mirror scene when the main hero was ready to be taken to the real world went on for nearly the entirety of the class about its meanings, and I did my best not to roll my eyes at what some of the people were saying. You see, the thing I have never understood about a lot of people's feelings about the movie, I never felt there was anything deep to the story or its premise. I have seen it as nothing more than a rather interesting science fiction film with martial arts and action elements that actually went out of its way to tell a story in a different fashion, and I did thought it was smarter than your average action flick. It wasn't until I took a philosophy class that I first read Rene Descartes' First Meditation, and it was assigned to watch The Matrix in company with it. It was then that I started to understand why people saw something deep about it, because that reading pretty much fits what The Matrix was in the film, only taking it on with a sci-fi angle. The First Meditation, of the things of which we may doubt, talks about Descartes rejecting all false opinions that he once held when he was younger and wishing to discover real truths. By the end of it, he has this to say: I will suppose, then, not that deity, who is sovereignly good and the fountain of truth, but that some malignant demon, who is at once exceedingly potent and deceitful, has employed all of his artifice to deceive me. I will suppose that the sky, the air, the earth, colors, figures, sounds, and all external things are nothing better than the illusions of dreams, by means of which this being has laid snares for my credulity. But this undertaking is arduous, and a certain indulgence insensibly leads me back to my ordinary course of life. And just as the captive who perchance was enjoying in his dream an imaginary liberty, when he begins to suspect that it is but a vision, dreads awakening, and conspires with the agreeable illusions that the deception may be prolonged, falls back into the train of my former beliefs, and fear to arouse myself from my slumber. Sounds familiar? It should if you've seen the film, because this reads like the setup. The Matrix is a computer program run by machines that is used on human beings as a dream world while they are being harvested for their life energy. However, there are a few humans who are able to notice that there is something odd about the world around them, and they were able to break away from the Matrix and enter the real world, and some of them went on to fight against the machines. One of them is Thomas Anderson, or Neo, played by Keanu Reeves. He gets sucked out of the Matrix and into the dystopian world, and later learn that he could be the key to winning the world because he is the one. Seriously, they literally spell that out. Just take the O from Neo and put it at the head of the line and you get 1. Pretty clever, huh? Now when I say that I understand why people will see that there is something deep to this film, that there is a philosophical discussion to be had, that doesn't mean that I think there is something deep about this film. In fact, after rewatching The Matrix recently, my opinion of it has slightly dropped. I still think it is a well done film and the look of it is very interesting and I do admire the craftsmanship, but at first, believe it or not, I actually didn't mind Keanu Reeves' acting ability. Before, I didn't think he was that bad of an actor as a lot of people say he is. But I was a kid who didn't watch as many great films until I pretty much graduated from high school and finally get to see so many films on my own that I've always wanted to see. And after 10 years of watching great films after great films with great performances,
I know Kung Fu.
God.
What?
I used to eat that. You're the goodness.
are you kidding me? When people say that this is his best performance, I don't think that they are saying a whole lot. For the most part, it's fine at best, but when there should have been a hint of an emotional response, it's almost as if Reeves doesn't give a shit at all. For someone who's supposed to be the main focus of the story, he is the least interesting actor to watch. He is far from terrible, like I never cringe at it, but when I see this that is enough to kick me out of the film, and that is the last thing I want happening to me. As for the others, like Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity, and the whole crew of the
Nebuchadnezzar.
Whatever. Some of them are about par with Reeves' acting ability, while others are giving some of the best performances of the film. In fact, my favorite character to watch is the traitorous Cypher, played by Joe Pantoliano. The reason why I liked his character the most is simple. I felt a little bit of sympathy for him. He shows his contempt because of him choosing the red pill to take him out of the Matrix, where he lives in hellish conditions where people live in fear with the threat of the machines finding them and eating disgusting food. Not really a great life when compared to the Matrix, where people are living very comfortably even though it is all fake. Just the way he taunted his teammates as he one by one literally pulls the plug on them feels rather cathartic for me, because not only do I love the way Pantoliano performs, but I just couldn't give a shit about the good guys. That is how bad the character development for the main characters I find them to be, or just the way the characters are written and performed. I didn't get a strong sense of camaraderie amongst the group that makes me wish for their safety, and they seem to be so ultra serious that seeing someone with a bit of sense of humor was like a breath of fresh air for me. And as for the bad guys led by Hugo Weaving, I can see why they should be terrifying. They are part of the Matrix, so they come off as lifeless while having a form of artificial intelligence, kinda like HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Even so, while they are a viable threat to our heroes, I don't know, I just don't find them any more interesting. I mean, for something that is supposed to be badass, how could they mess this one up? Now for the biggest selling point of the film, the look. As it stands, it's still impressive, if only a bit pointless at some parts. I get the slow motion aspects of it because it's supposed to show how fast Neo or any of the characters are moving when confronted in a situation like in a gunfight or hand-to-hand combat. However, there are some shots where it feels like the film wants to show off the technology that they are using that doesn't really add anything to the story or the world of the film. The most blatant example is in the opening scene where Trinity jumps in the air, freezes, the camera spins around the action, pushes the play button, and the action resumes. What is the point of that shot besides making it look cool? That's what always annoys me about films that want to innovate. They want to show off something that doesn't add anything to the film itself. But if there is one thing that I love about this film, is how the fight scenes are filmed. Oh my god, I cannot begin to tell you just how frustrating it is for me to watch American films that shoot fights so close to the participants where I can't tell if someone is throwing a punch or a kick, with a lot of quick edits back and forth that it pretty much telegraphs just how shitty the fighters are. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Batman Begins. Here they actually took a page from Chinese martial arts films and even have legendary fight choreographer Yuen Wu Ping to have it look pristine and exciting, as if they are really filming a real fight. There are people who say that they are pointless. I don't, but even if they are, I still love a good fight scene. And finally, I have something to say about the whole philosophical angle that so many people found. I believe that the Wachowski brothers were inspired by a lot of things, from films, literature, and philosophical and religious thoughts, and want to make a movie based on those things, presented it as a straightforward action sci-fi film that was inspired by them. In the aftermath of the success of the film, some fans, ones who were a little bit more educated, noticed some of those trains of thought and made parallels with the philosophies, and just took it to a whole new level, to a point where people are taking these films far more seriously than I think the film was trying to do in the first place. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. But for me, I don't think there's anything philosophical about this movie at all. When I think of a philosophical film, I think of filmmakers like Ingmar Bergman or Terrence Malick that tell stories with a philosophical angle, where it questions the audience and allows them to come up with the answer on their own. This film answers its own questions within the first 40 minutes and doesn't bring it up for the rest of the film. Sure, there are questions of fate and destiny, but they don't pan them out as much. And it doesn't help that I don't care about the main character if the actor himself couldn't act like he cares that he's in a film that is going to redefine movies forever. But do I think it's a smart film? Sure. Is there something deep about it? not the way I see it. If it doesn't make me question about the world around me or challenge me about my own conceived notions, then I don't label it as a philosophical film, even if it is based off some writings of some dead guy. And I got more out of reading from that than from watching this film. Regardless, despite flaws that would destroy my enjoyment of any other film, it's still interesting and good enough for me to say that I do like it. It is not a mindless action sci-fi film, as it is constructed with a lot of care and thought, and it is certainly done with a lot of love. And if I could sense that coming from a film, then I could be more inclined to accept it for what it is and forgive some of its failings. It is well shot with an attitude that is all its own, and it's fun to watch without having to turn off your brain, and that always gets a plus from me. While I know for a fact that I won't miss it much if I never do see it again, I certainly won't mind if I do end up seeing it one more time.